Hi, this is Nick Morris for the NCS podcast, and we are live at Annual. This is our wrap up of today, and I'm with some of the members of the NCS podcast subcommittee. Guys, why don't we go around and introduce ourselves?
Sure. So I'm Jon Rosenberg. It's good to see everyone.
Kassi Kronfeld. I'm here from Harbor, UCLA.
Stephan Mayer, past president, and I work with Jon as well, which is a true privilege.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And I thought it would just be a nice way to wrap up the day by everyone going around and sharing one highlight of the meeting so far for them. So Jon, why don't you get us started?
Well, this is actually my first day at NCS ever, so it was nice to make it to the conference, see my colleagues. Lots of good learning. I think for me, I did enjoy the brain death talk and just kind of just understanding and seeing how there's a lot of heterogeneity in how brain death is declared and how people adhere to the guidelines was a little kind of scary for me, but also nice to see that the society is taking this seriously and that there are going to be new guidelines coming out.
What are those guidelines going to say? Do you know?
No CTA.
And maybe
Crushed.
That's because of
That's under embargo.
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm a big CTA fan. When the rare circumstance when I have to get a confirmatory test, because it's like easier and faster. It's 5 minute study and.
I'm nuclear medicine all the way, personally.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're always
I
nuclear.
think you were on the slide, Stefan. They had like adhering to the guidelines.
That guy.
You were that guy. So.
Well, when you advance a field, someone's always got to kind of be out there, on the fringe, right?
Ahead of the guy.
All right, Stefan, you're up. What was one of your highlights today?
I was thinking about Intrepid, but what was really interesting, I'm ready for Intrepid, and it was really fun today because it's a true reveal. It's like, drum roll, please. But there's a little study of 50 febrile neurocritical care patients kind of sick, where they have sustained fever, and they give half of them bromocriptine in addition to standard of care. So they've already been febrile for 24 hours after getting 1,000 milligrams Q6 of acetaminophen. Drum roll, it worked. It was really impressive. There was a really cool separation of the temperature curves. And it was also, they measured as an outcome escalation to like a servo-controlled cooling device or something. And it was less escalation. It was really cool. You guys, looks like you saw that, Nick, right?
I did. I loved it. We've been using more and more bromocriptine. I think there's another recent paper that was published showing it works, and I've become a believer. And this sometimes we kind of game the system, right? I think it's good for patient care, but it also can push patient care along because of all the procedures that get delayed because of fever, right? The trach and peg that gets pushed off, the transfer out of the ICU or to rehab that gets pushed off because they're spiking fevers and someone's concerned. And we know that they seem to have these cyclic fevers that once a day they spike a fever, and we're not going to further work this up. And that just goes away, I think, with bromocriptine.
Yeah, but I think what's kind of cool is that if mostly when you want to control a fever, it's in a neuro patient. That's going to segue to Intrepid, but there's the neuro patients are different, and a lot of these fevers are actually part of a cocktail of autonomic problems that we think of, classify as storming. But I get it totally. Like, by suppressing the storming, they look better, they look less sick, and you can move them along better.
Yeah.
And I guess you can keep a Folian for 14 days and not increase the risk of UTI.
That was the takeaway from Intrepid.
How they defined UTI, they didn't get to. But...
Well, they're like most neurointensivists, they don't look, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. UA no culture, right?
And to segue off of that, so I guess my main takeaway from the Intrepid report out, and hopefully Dave Greer doesn't hunt me down after this, was that we don't know yet. Is fever just a sign that the patient's going to do poorly? And we know fevers happen in brain injury, but we just still don't know. Does intervening on that fever change the outcome? So I thought that was actually really a good take back moment to kind of, take a step back, reevaluate what we're doing and say like, wait, are we trying to control the wrong thing? Is the fever just the sign of something else? And it's not really the key to the intervention.
Well, and right, the only main differences in the two groups were the fever burden and shivering, which is like, duh, of course, right?
Yeah, well,
But if you could control fever without shivering, that's another question that's out there, right? And so, you know, my boss Neerj has been working on this for a while, and we have these intranasal devices, and I think that's still fair game. Is we have to answer this question: is how deleterious is shivering, and if there is a way to control fever without shivering, is that worth pursuing? Maybe bromocriptine is the answer. I don't know, because
Well,
shiver on bromocriptine.
well, that's funny. It's not part of the classic Columbia stepwise anti-shiver protocol, which hats off to Neerj. She, really came up with that, a team effort, obviously. But that's, I mean, presumably you're doing that. You're doing, the magnesium, the buspirone, and the skin counterwarming, and then I love the dexmedetomidine, right? And so you don't have to, because it is true, like if you zonk people, I don't know if people know this, but in the very beginning, when we were doing TTM with cooling blankets and catheters, they were going directly to meperidine, and that was it, and just getting zonked and extending the length of stay and getting more pneumonias and the whole thing. So, yeah, but well, we'll see the publication, right?
We will. Any other thoughts about the meeting?
Yeah, it's just nice to be back in person. This is my first meeting since I graduated fellowship. Really nice to connect with people and meet new people as well.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think of the weather?
It's hot. It's real hot. It's not a little hot. It's hotter than hot. We walked 2 blocks to get tacos, and I was sweating through my shirt before I even got there. So,
But John, your family's from here.
Well, from New York, moved here about 2000, about 20 years ago. But this is a hot time. The weather's going to break next week.
oh, this is the
And typically also in Phoenix, it's in a valley and there's also a lot of concrete. So it's a little warmer here than the rest of, like, if you go a little further north. It's, maybe 105, not 110, or 100, not 110.
Well, this is why NCS usually is in October, right? So we picked a really good time of year to come to
I
Phoenix.
hope we're going back.
well, no news there. It's hot in Phoenix, but really exciting studies that were released today. New results at NCS, which is unusual for us, and I think moving this conference a step forward in its importance is getting results from a major trial like Intrepid for the first time. So that's really exciting, and hopefully there'll be more of that in the future at the Neurocritical Care Annual Meeting.
Are you guys going to do lumbar drains? Are you guys going to push?
We've already started lumbar drains. We have done over 80 patients. We started before the early drain trial was released. We talked about on the podcast earlier today, we've changed a little bit of our protocol based on the early drain protocol because we did have some safety concerns with some brain sag from over drainage. And I think this dual measurement, looking for a gradient between the EVD and the lumbar drain pressures helps protect against that. So,
which we're going to start as well. It's a lot of interest.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Keep tuning in to Live at Annual for your updates on the annual Neurocritical Care Conference. We're excited to bring this content to you, and we hope you'll keep downloading the NCS podcast wherever you get your podcasts.